Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. We're all a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. We anticipated Dad was a fairly popular human being, but we certainly didn't think this many. And we thank you very much for being here, and I know it's in support of Dad, it's also in support of our family, so myself, Brother Todd and Sister Sal. How this will work, and first of all, apologies for those that the Tuesday at the paddo wasn't sound like such a great idea, but this was sort of Dad's wish. Can you hear me up to that? You? This was sort of Dad's wish. We had a very private and beautiful service on Saturday morning at the Little Flower, just with immediate family and Dad's siblings and their families. And we said a really good, beautiful Catholic farewell to Dad. And the way that he had requested a long time ago, actually, and as we got closer, as he got older, we heard about it more and more. So I got a feeling Dad might have thought this was all going to happen pretty soon. So on behalf of our family, I warmly welcome you as we gather to honour and celebrate the life of Patrick Vincent Maguire. A dad, a granddad, a brother, a mate, and a friend to so many. We are deeply grateful for your presence today. And especially to those who have sent messages but couldn't be here today, our thoughts and hearts are with you as well. On January 9, 2026, Dad wrote the script. It's playing bowls, having a coldie, and most likely on a sports bet app. His heart completely broke. And I believe, and we believe in that moment, he decided it was time. It was time to go back to Mum. Whether Mum agreed with that decision is another matter of time. I really can see Mum rolling her eyes and saying, "What the are you doing here, Patrick?" I'm sure she was having a great time with all her friends and probably ran into Doris Day at some stage. The truth is, we all know, most of us anyway in this room, on an earlier day, one we all remember really well, part of Dad had already died. From that moment on, he was never quite the same. He became in many ways a bit of a lost soul. He was lonely, heartbroken, and he quietly tried to find his way through life that no longer really felt whole to him. He lost the love of his life. He lost his best friend. Only after Mum's passing did we fully realise just how much he had relied on her, how deeply he confided in her, and how much of himself he shared with her. They weren't always perfectly happy or agreeable to him, but for some reason, it just worked. And it worked for a whole lifetime. Today, as Dad wished, we are not here solely to mourn him, but to celebrate his life, his Irish heritage, his love of hospitality, and the gift of storytelling. Today is about gathering, sharing memories, laughter, and a few good stories. As I said, we had a private farewell the other day where we said goodbye in a quieter and more personal way, true to his strong Catholic beliefs. A couple of thanks before we get started. I'd really like to thank Alan and his team at Gaythorne Bowls. That afternoon was unbelievably tough and emotional. And we cannot thank you enough for the respect, dignity, and the care you showed Dad and to all of us. We also extend our gratitude to the paramedics, the doctors and nurses who cared for Dad over the last few years. This may surprise some of you, but Dad wasn't always the most compliant patient. Yet your professional patience and compassion did not go unnoticed. So today, let's honour Patrick Vincent Maguire the way that he would have wanted. with warmth, with stories, with laughter, and a shitload of love. Thank you for being here today. It means the world to Sally, Todd, myself, and our families. Have a great afternoon. We have a number of tributes this afternoon to guest speakers, or you should call them guest speakers, they're just speakers. Guest speakers never get paid, these guys don't get paid. But our first one is Dad was a very strong connection to his family, to his brothers and sisters, to his mum and dad, and to the entire Maguire clan. And when we gather on Christmas, there's usually about 80 of us now, so it's a pretty big clan. And
thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Scott. If I'm not getting paid, then I've got nothing to say. This is called Memories of Pat. An imposing stately residence sits majestically at 14 Clayton Street, Sandgate, where the Maguire family home once existed. Our home was a small war service dwelling with an extension added to cope with the increasing number of siblings that swelled our ranks. Dad seemed to be constantly putting up and pulling down walls to create extra sleeping spaces. The pundits of the day they called Sandgate Pauper's Paradise would certainly attract their share of ridicule today. Life in the trenches at Sandgate was noisy and bustling, and from the outset, Pat's skills needed to attract his share of care and concern. Pat was third in the succession order of 6 siblings. In our youth, Pat and I swam in Moreton Bay, played cowboys and Indians on the cliffs of Brighton Terrace, played backyard cricket and football, and on the kitchen table tennis and bowls. When Mum found disciplining us a little too difficult, she would threaten us with, "Your father will deal with you tonight." I remember often lining up outside the torture room, but with no Pat by my side. He was either very evasive, or considered innocent, or just much smarter than I. There were occasions on which, through necessity, Dad would become the chief chef. He made a special dish called hash. Now, hash was a saucepan of mashed potatoes with a tin of braised steak beaten into the mixture. It was a dish that wouldn't grace the menu of any reputable restaurant. When Pat and I were 9 and 12 respectively, we contracted hepatitis. Our symptoms baffled many doctors of the day until we were finally diagnosed. The treatment was quarantining at home for 3 months, that wasn't bad, and adhering to a diet of dried toast, boiled whiting, barley sugar and black tea. In time, Pat and I overcame this ailment, with Pat then catching scarlet fever. Pat was quite artistic. Each year, he entered a competition sponsored by Woolworths, which entailed drawing a portrait of your father, and each year he invariably won. He was superb at sketching, and he was ambidextrous. After Cheryl's passing, Pat went to art classes and enjoyed these as the organisers would ply the participants with red wine. How therapeutic. In 1954, Pat commenced the bulk of his formal education at St Patrick's College, Shortland, our alma mater, facing the sea. There, apart from his academic accomplishments, Pat learned the lessons of responsibility and resilience, traits that would accompany his actions throughout the years. During his decade of school at St Pat's, Pat left an indelible mark on the sporting culture of the school. He excelled at swimming and created records that were still in place 5 years after his departure. One night, at a TAS meeting at the Valley Pool, he defeated St Lawrence's superfish, Peter Murphy, in a backstroke event. Had I been punting in those days, I would have reaped a fortune given the odds that would have been available. Pat finished Year 12 in 1963 after being inducted as a school prefect. That year, he was also a valuable member of the first cricket team and the first rugby side. In 1964, wide-eyed and full of anxiety and anticipation, Pat emerged from the cloistered environment of school to join the real world. And his first full-time occupation was a credit officer with Customs Credit. Football was in his blood, so he joined Brothers Rugby Union Club, where he played under 19. He was captain of the under 19 in his second year and was selected to play for Queensland in Sydney. What set Pat apart from many players of his era was his instinct and his finesse. Pat had a way of rising to the occasion, always calm and focused and letting his skills do the talking. He then went on to take up a position at the Queensland Tourist Bureau. Pat was soon to arrive at the pinnacle of his sporting career and his personal life. Around this time, he had met and was captivated by the beautiful Cheryl. They would begin the courting process, which would culminate in their marriage. I remember seeing them one night dancing together at the O'Connor Boathouse. It struck me then what an imposing couple they made. Pat was his dapper self, and Cheryl slim, attractive, and her long golden hair adorning her head in a French knot. In 1966, Pat signed a contract to play with Brothers Rugby League. How fortuitous, as he joined the ranks of a team bursting with representative players. This group went on to win the grand final against Norths in 1967, 6-2, in a tight defensive game, breaking North's dominance. And then again, in 1968, they defeated Eastern Suburbs 21-4 at Lang Park. Finally, it happened. Pat and Cheryl were wed at St John's Catholic Church at Northgate on October 5, 1968, after which they went on their honeymoon. However, it was cut short as Pat had to return to Brisbane to play against South Sydney in the Australasian Club Championship on October 20. The score that day, South Sydney 55, Brothers 15. The verdict, in my opinion, South Sydney very lucky. Pat played for South Sydney for 3 years in the early 70s. About one of his trial games, he related this story. I was standing in my wing position and I haven't seen much of the ball. The scrum was ordered, the scrum went down, and then there was an explosion of arms and fists, accompanied by a cacophony of grunts and expletives, with John Sattler emerging. Sats called to me, "Pat, quick!" I went running in, and as I reached him, he put the palm of his hand on my chest and halted my progress. He said, "It's all right, Pat. Just wanted to see how fast you'd come." At the conclusion of their sojourn in Sydney, Pat and Cheryl, with Scott in tow, returned to their beloved Brizzy and brothers to grow their family and for Pat to see out his playing days. Pat loved brothers. It was his spiritual home. There he found a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and the status he so deserved. Brothers offered him the opportunity to make so many lifelong friends, and being a very social person, this is what he treasured most. Brothers Club gave Pat so much, but in return, he gave even more. Pat, you will be missed by so many people, but not as much as your brothers and sisters who hail you as a great brother. Pat, throughout your life, you valiantly upheld the St. Pat's motto, Certa bonum certamen, fight the good fight.
technical difficulties. Always seems to be the IT, but hey, we'll move on. It's not the end of the world. Dad couldn't even turn the TV on, so that's not good. Just one story that's about Mum and Dad. In particular, we'll hear more about Mum and Dad. A big thank you to Terry. There's stuff in there I didn't know either, so thank you so much, Mum and Terry. One funny story about Mum and Dad. Very simple one. Probably shows how vain our mother was, and I've always kept her, is they got married on October 5th. And Mum was a year older, her birthday was October 10. And they were supposed to get married after October 10, and then when Mum realised that on the marriage certificate she would be 1 year older, she changed the date so it would be before her birthday. That was the only reason. That's vanity at its best. I'll pass over to my brother. I think it's my brother today, I'm not too sure. Not too sure. I could be prodding, I don't know. I'll pass over to the favourite.
Hello everyone, you obviously know who I am. My name's Todd. I'm the second oldest, the most favourite, the famous one, the winning one, one of all the sporting ability, and it wasn't really hard to become the favourite boy, especially when we've got a cockroach over here. All your mates are going to remember that, he was born in New South Wales. That's all everyone. Now, my little story here is titled Grateful. I'll be forever grateful that I was born a Maguire with an MAG, not an MC. Even more grateful that my parents were Pat and Cheryl and my siblings were Scott and Sally. Although I'm not sure how Mum and Dad survived raising the three of us without calling back. Our childhood wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bloody far off either. In my policing career, I've seen plenty of kids grow up in absolute chaos. Kind of homes who wonder where the walls are standing. And it really made me appreciate how many opportunities Mum and Dad gave us. And they didn't get those opportunities just from a scratchy win. They worked their guts out, worked 2 jobs, and basically gave us everything we got. And I'm eternally grateful for that. Growing up, surrounded by cousins and family, felt normal at the time. It wasn't until I got a bit older that I realised not everyone had a small army or relatives turning up at every barbecue. The quality of people that Mum and Dad brought into our lives was incredible, and sometimes a little questionable if you went to any of the Australian that day. However, it was always entertaining. Dad had an immeasurable love for brothers and rugby league in general. We didn't have as much love for South Sydney, which I was really surprised about, but I think it might have something to do with what Mum always said to us. When she was in Sydney, she only went to watch her father so I could move on to myself. And then that might turn you on to the friendships that they built over the years were something special. And then as you look at, we won't knew that Dad was popular, but when you look at today, well, it's a bit ridiculous really, isn't it? It looks like he's basically the unofficial thing Anyway, life will never be the same without your dad. I'm going to miss our chats. I'm going to miss him telling me about a horse that he saw yesterday and Tibbet that came second again. That he got $5.20 for a spoon here at the Bowls Club versus $7.80 at the Bristol. So he's pretty happy with that. He was always finding a deal. He was always finding where the best beers were. His love for Mum was always obvious. And you'll know you'll be happy to be back by her side. As we've all been saying for a while now, I know Mum would be happy that he's up there, but she might have been going, well, maybe I could have got maybe another couple of years with Eddie. The reality we're on now. But anyway, thank you for everyone for your presence today. It means the world to our family. Dad would love to turn out, even though he pretended he didn't. We wanted to celebrate Dad's life, and it's all about being happy today and do heaps of backstage and tell lies and talk yourself up and enjoy yourself. Okay, so no one's allowed to go after this, or I'll just stay and drink until I tell you. You got to personally ask me. And one thing that I try and live my life at, and I know Dad did, is every decision you make in your life is the right one. It means that you don't live your life without any regrets. Just live your life and enjoy it. Thank you, everyone.
It's no coincidence that we are gathered only a few hundred metres from the iconic Lake Park. Dad's life was deeply influenced by the great game of rugby league. The lifeline mates gave him the sense of belonging and the immense joy it brought him. Rugby league wasn't just a sport to Dad, it was a connection, it was a passion and a constant throughout his life. And now I'd like to invite up his premiership winning mates and lifetime mates, Reggie Cannon and Noel Kavanagh, just to share a few words about that. So
I'll just tell you a quick story. Reg, they're both Queensland second row forces, quite feared and very good in their trade. Reg was one of my first employees at the Fresh Grave Tavern. Learned a lot about drinking from him. And Noel's actually my godfather, and he played for Australia, played for Queensland, played for Dragons, played for North Sydney. And I think there's going to be some great stories about their life, Sydney. I went down to North Sydney to run, try to pretend like I had a run, but I remember looking in one of the clubhouse and there was this big frame poster of Mark Avenue, and I went, the hell's my daughter doing there? Little bit I know, when you're young, you don't realise how popular who these people were. So, put your hands together, this will be some rugby league legendary stories.
Very important. I was asked by the wife, Amber, if you can hear me okay. I've been fortunate enough to be asked by the wife, Amber, to share a few memories about Pat's early days during friendships that we shared with brothers in those early days. So I'll kick it off. It was at Corbett Park back in the lead up to the 67 rugby league season that our story began. Pat was fresh from rugby union, bringing his own unique flavour and skills and speed. And I, on the other hand, was fresh from national service and football life. We gathered for pre-season training, which was drawn by a grand final loss the year before, and a sense of anticipation that comes with a new season. From the first run of training, we struck up immediate friendships. The title of the scores on long nights, up the training nights, and a few cold runs to cover us afterwards. And the spirit of the competition and the camaraderie our friendships never faltered. What started when the feelings extended beyond to our wives, our families, and our lives outside brothers, decades, 4 decades on. These bonds remain as strong as ever today. When Pat hung up his boots, his football boots, he found himself in the administration side of the code, which saw him thrive in the role with brothers, junior rugby league, as well as the seniors, and the confraternity of brothers clubs. He somehow found time to coach and mentor Pat in college first for some 14 years. And with the advent of Mangalini in Queensland, he saw Pat on the field in charge of welfare, helping and supporting the laws projects that are doing the time. He was also on the committee assisting Brisbane City Council to establish a permanent monument down Jean Street, the Grange, from the banks of the Kedron Brook, in a location approximately where the old Corbett Park clubhouse was. And we're celebrating the history of the famous farm of the British area and club facilities. The project is still ongoing. The Brisbane Rugby League competition changed dramatically with the introduction of the NRL. Pat was determined for the rugby team in a new Brisbane competition. The challenge was succeeded somehow. He, with his committee, joined forces with the wonderful Brisbane Valley, Fortitude Valley, to field an A-grade side. His long-term desire was to have Brisbane brothers compete in the state. This he also achieved in 2004 with the financial backing of St George Travelers recipients. He was exceptional. He was exceptional when it came to identifying young rugby league talent. He gratefully accepted the role of selector with the Queensland Independent Secondary School to establish a Queensland side for the annual confraternity or conference shield competition held annually. That was in a couple of different colleges throughout the state, which we all line up the way we were noted car or train to get there, and we enjoy ourselves to a wonderful time. Pat continued his selection services for some 19 years and was rewarded with club membership to add to the Brisbane Brothers Rugby League and confraternity of Brothers Clubs membership levels. The confraternity shield began in 1980 with 6 teams, and last year, 2025, the number was 82, with Wankies. Pat played an important role in this game. Off-roaders produced untold numbers of NRL players as well as Queensland origin and test representatives. The 2022-25 season last year saw 8 players with the Maroon jumper and the Wolf for conference. Out of the 67 68 Brothers Premiership team members, the sports they can appreciate the unique friendship with one another to this day. This has been backed by a member of the union's held for the past 58 years at different locations in South East Queensland. That played a major role in making this reunion happen. In finishing the 68, the memory of that full flight running nearly the full length of that park on the outside to see the premiership for Big Creek will never ever be forgotten by us and there will be a dreadful memory for each supporters. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. Been loud enough. Thanks, Richard, previous speaker. Just one thing, Shirley would like to send her sorry to the Maguire family. She couldn't make it today. But anyhow, thanks very much to the previous speakers. Everything we had to say is all gone. But anyway, we won't worry about it. I've known Pat for about 59 years on the list. Played in 67, grand final. I went to Sydney at 68, and Pat arrived down there at about 1970, I think it was, and joined South Sydney. We still stayed very close friends. We had many drinks in Sydney, and we went to a few parties, but it was just typical football. One thing about it was Pat, there was moments South Sydney, I heard Terry, I say, someone mentioned before, he didn't happen to probably make it in Sydney like he wanted to. He had a lot of trouble with working. He went down there to Queensland Tourist Bureau. He had trouble getting to training because at that day he used to start training about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Pat could never get there till about 5. And I think he fell out of favour with a couple of the selectors, but he still, when he played well. And one other thing with Pat, we had a party over where he lived over this Sydney there, and Dallas O'Neill, who also played rugby union, and went down to Sydney and played with South. Big Dallas was Johnny Stackel's old mate, and we had a great old party. And Dallas was used to work at the Rothmans. He had the car parked outside full of cigarettes and what else he had in it. And we went out to see him off, and he with his sister, and no cab, no car, good. So Pat Dallas got in the car, hit the cab, and went down to the police station. I said, how did you get here? And he said, that cab. And anyway, I never saw Dallas again after that. I went to Ducky one year. But outside of that, I'd just like to mention that one of Cheryl's friends, hold on, we're going to get it right. Anyway, she rang me up from Early Beach the other day, and I said, oh yeah, right, I got Sherry. I said, what? She said, I'm trying to hear about Pat. And I said, yeah. I said, it was very sudden. And she said, well, did you just pass on our condolences? I said, yeah, no worries at all. And I said to her, I said, how the hell did you ever meet Cheryl and Pat? And she said, oh, Pat used to come to all the marching girls. Cheryl was no marching girl. I said, oh, well done. Anyway, the other person who rang me was Greg Reynolds, who few of the people here remember. He was always at the top fraternities. He was one of the safest top fraternities. And he said his wishes to the Maguire family. And the other one was when he was in Bundaberg one year there, he met a bloke called Gary Smith. And that was a welfare officer for Brisbane. And poor old Gary got a bit of a infection in his leg and he ended up losing it. Pat visited at least 20 times while he was in Brisbane. So he always remembers, even when Pat used to come up to Bundaberg, we always had a big session with Gary Smith because Gary appreciated everything he did. But when we were in Sydney, when Pat retired from the Queensland Tourist Bureau, and he couldn't find a job, or I think he started a bit of insurance. And after that, I think he did the insurance one, he did get the insurance one. He came to me and said, you know anyone wants to employ you? And I said, I said, come with me. And he said, where are we going? He said, we're going to the Cremorne Motel we're building. And he said, oh, his Biggie Bar was the foreman there. And Pat said, he said, yeah, you can start here, come help me dressed in work here. So Pat's arrived and he said to Vic, what are we going to do? And he said, well, see those two big jackhammers? Jackhammers over there, 90-pound jackhammers? He said, yeah, we'll get out of the well and start digging, baby. When you finish, you'll finish. Anyway, thanks very much for the opportunity to say something. We had a fair bit to talk about the football and that, but some people have got ahead of us, making me all that sort of thing. But anyway, thanks very much.
Thank you.
There's plenty of brothers players in the room, and I went to a lot of reunions, particularly with that 67, 68, but I was also lucky enough to play a little bit of footy at the end of their careers, but also the 87 grand final team, which are a pretty strong group as well. So to all the brothers people in the room, we're going to attempt to sing back them all. So would anyone like to start us?
They say there's a elite team in old Brisbane town. Brothers, they're called by name. Proud of the jerseys they wear on the field. Proud of the rugby league game. There's many a player who's just signing on. Some who have played in tests. So get in condition and fight for position. The blue and white boys are the best. Back 'em all, back 'em all. The fullbacks and wingers and all. Back all the centres and 5/8s alike. Back all the halfbacks and hookers that strike. For we chain pass the ball round the ground. We'll back up and never go down. You all know the colours, the blue, white for brothers. So cheer up my lads, back 'em all. Nobody knows what a team we are. So cheer up my lads, back 'em all. Up brothers!
Well, I didn't think that was right. Probably a bit of a theme with Dad is he certainly likes to have a good time. And just going back to that video, it slightly shows where Sally and I got all our speed from. Dad loves a good time. Everybody that has had anything to do with Dad, you know that he loves the party, loves the story, loves the coldie. Just like to be in the company of good people. And one of Dad's favourite days of the year, and the boys were famous for it, we had an Australia Day party. And he had an Australia Day party for the right reasons. I know nowadays you've got to be careful, but he had it for the right reasons. It was because he wanted to spend some time with his family, with his mates. He loved living in Australia. He was a very proud Australian. And he thought that we lived in a really lucky place at lucky times. And as Todd mentioned before, Mum and Dad gave me great life and great gifts. But one of the greatest gifts I think they gave me is all the people in this room that were friends with Mum and Dad over the years. The people that were Mum and Dad's closest, who they spent holidays with, they played cards with, they went to dinner with, they went on holidays with, always became Mum and Dads to us as well. We were so lucky that Mum and Dad had such an amazing group of close friends. And one way of Dad recognising that is that Mum and Dad decided many years ago, we think the first one was around about, around 1990, they started an Australia Day party that probably ran for nearly 25 years. And it just grew bigger and bigger, and I know many people in this room attended those parties. And those parties were a party. They started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and there were still people that go at 10 o'clock the next day. But part of the rule was, if you came to the party, you pretty much had to provide some entertainment, an act. You had to sing a song, do something, as my mother would always say. For God's sake, do something. Should have been tattooed on Mum. And we did something. Sometimes it was funny and it was clever and it was artful, but other times it was complete crap, but it didn't matter, you got up and you did something. So this is a tribute to Dad and his love of Australia Day, his love of his mates, and it's quite ironic that we sit here on the 27th of January because we probably would have had a party on Friday or Saturday, and some of us might have still been going. So enjoy. We weren't going to attempt to sing a song that Dad would sing every Australia Day, but I think we might be starting to lose the crowd, so we'll move on. No, because the song they used to sing, Mum and Dad, was when we first made love, it used to make us sick. Imagine being a teenage boy and your mum and dad get in front of all these randoms and they sing a song titled When We First Made Love. I was hoping that was me. But we're not going. He used to sing The Wild Rover. That was his tune. We might put it on a little bit later, but we need to move on. And we're going to the Forgotten Maguire. Sometimes it's just Forgotten Todd. But we have a beautiful sister. Certainly was, there's no doubt, Todd can say what he likes, but certainly was Dad's favourite. Most daughters are much of their dads, and Sally and Dad had a really amazing special bond. And I'm only going to say this once, Sal, so you might want to record it. In the last few years in Dad's life, he wasn't a happy soul, he wasn't particularly healthy, he had some issues that had him back in and out of hospital. We thought since Christmas we thought things had started to look a bit better, but things happened. But one thing that over the last couple of years, Sally was absolutely amazing with Dad, with the daughters, Lily and Molly. They spent a lot of time with their pop, and that was the highlight of his week, was when he got to see Sal and also get to see his friends. So Sally is going to say a few words about her father. Please welcome Sally.
Live where people have said, I didn't know the Maguires had a sister. So for the rest of today, we're going to say, I didn't know Sally had two brothers. That's how it's going to roll for the rest of the day. Scott, Todd and I were pretty lucky when it came to Dads. We really were. I could stand here all afternoon and tell you what Dad meant to us. And it was just safety. Having Dad in the world just felt safe. What I will say is, as good as a dad he was to us, our kids got an even better version of him. He was a great father, but he was an exceptional grandfather to Lily, Fletcher, Harry, Wesley and Molly. Becoming a grandfather was one of the greatest joys in Dad's life. Those kids really were his pride and joy, and honestly, they completely stole his heart. No matter what else was going on, everything felt better when they were around. He softened, he smiled more, and if you can believe, he even became less argumentative. And if you ever wondered who was in charge, it wasn't him. They called the shots, and Dad was simply in awe of them and every single one of their achievements. He loved them in the quietest, purest way. He wasn't big or showy, but steady and constant. He listened to them, worried about them, protected them, and believed in them long before they even believed in themselves. With him, they were always safe and number one. They were always enough. And even during the times that Todd, Scott and I shared our worries with Dad about our kids, he was always reassuring, confident that things would just simply work out. Mum loved those grandchildren just as fiercely. I can only imagine how many afternoon phone calls fueled by wine and orange with her girlfriends were spent, giving every detailed update about everything those kids had done. I'm sure most of you in this room, especially the ladies up the back, has had some versions of those stories too. One of the most profound moments in my life was during Mum's final days. Dad sat beside her, holding her hand, tears rolling down his face, and they were whispering to one another. I saw Mum look up at him, and that look will stay with me forever. It was pure love. A long, intense stare, exchanging in the very moment just how much they really meant to one another. Later on, I asked Dad what they had been talking about. He told me he'd asked Mum what she had loved most about their life together. Mum had said it was watching her 3 children grow up and feeling blessed to have loved their grandchildren so deeply. That's a pretty good summary, I think, of a life well lived. And if you ask me, I can only hope to reflect on my life one day with that sense of gratitude. Some of my favourite memories are simply watching Dad with his grandkids, the softer voice, the smile that never left his face, the laughter, and the way the world seemed to slow down when they were around. In those moments, you could see who really my dad was. From the daily "Good morning, Maguire" clan text messages from our Harry, to the weekly brunches with Lily, who took her role of checking in on Poppy very seriously, and God, he knocked before it, to the pride he had watching Fletcher fly the coop for such an amazing work opportunity that he's been given, to the achievements of our rock star Wesley, and of course baby Mom, who had completely wrapped him around her little finger. Poppy loved you all so very much. In the last 2 years since our dear mum left us, those kids were what kept him going. They were his lifeline and kept his heart beating. They gave him a reason. They gave us, Todd, Scott and I, 2 more precious years with our dad. And I will love every one of them more deeply for the extra time they gave Dad to us. Dad may not be here to watch them grow up or watch them have families of their own, but the love he gave them didn't leave with him, it lives on in who they are and who they are becoming, in the values he quietly passed on, and in the knowledge that they were loved beyond measure. They have grown up to be remarkable adults, and Mum and Dad's influence has played such a significant part in this. Being their grandfather was the greatest honour of his life. And while today is hard, it helps us to know that his love is very much still alive in those kids, in all of us, and in each and every one here in this pub as well. So here's to Dad, a great father, but an even better grandfather, and a man who showed us what love looks like. He'll be with us always, he will live forever. Now please raise a glass to my father, to the grandfather of our children, and here's to Patrick.
we're nearly done. We have, I think, one more photo board to show. But just lastly, the last video we'll show is the life that Mum and Dad have with all their best friends. And so many of them in the room, and so many of them right now, and too many of them will be having a mad party with Mum and Dad up at heaven right now. So I want to think of those people as well, and I know that probably brings back a lot of emotions. My last story about Dad, and it actually wasn't too long ago, and I apologise to the Maguire clan because you heard this story the other day. It wasn't too long ago, sitting in Dad's recliners, which wasn't the best experience, but there was nowhere else to sit. And he just all of a sudden just turned to me and said, "Scott, you know what?" I said, "What?" He was probably shouting at me because everything was a shouting match by that stage. He said, "I actually have no regrets." I said, "Really? No regrets?" He said, "I have no regrets." I said, "That's amazing, Dad, because I don't think too many people can say that about a man that's lived 80 years. He's got zero regrets." He goes, "Nah." He said, "I'd actually do this all again." And I thought, wow, you have had an amazing life, Dad, if you can say that at 80 years of age. And at the end of my little speech the other day, and he was obviously looking as Dad was as bad a punter as I was. At the end of, that's big coming from you, Simon. And at the end of my thing the other day, I just said, "This afternoon, Dad, let's share a Guinness and let's win the Melbourne Quaddy." And guess what? We won the Melbourne Quaddy on Saturday. So yeah, enjoy the last video. Come back and thank a few people later on. But thank you for being here. It's exactly what Dad would have wanted. He would have loved this. So many people, so many faces. We were going alright until bloody Sal got up and got all teary on us, so well done, Sal, for working today. But we do, oh, Miss Brothers, that's right. Sally was Miss Brothers. Can't believe she didn't like that. Tim's Pub. If you want to know a little bit more about it, it's actually in the book about Sally being Miss Brothers. So cheers to everyone. Thank you for being here today. Love you all for all different reasons, but Dad would be really proud and probably a little bit embarrassed right now sitting up there. Love you. So thank you very much.